Hi everybody, welcome to another author event with Braille House and Bookshop 507. Today we're talking with Rosalie Enstrom, who's the author of Flight for Freedom. So hi, welcome Rosalie, it's nice to have you.
Thank you.
The book itself is actually about you. It's a true story. So what was it like writing about yourself?
Well, I've been thinking about writing this book for a long time because there are so many young people, and I was one of them, who in their early years were abused, that lived in poverty. And as the years went by, I realized that, this was not the way that you had to stay, that you could find a different way. And at the time, I was quite young, and my father was racing pigeons. Well, we had this little bird called Queenie, and I have to admit, my sister and I hated coming home from school every day and having to clean the lofts and, But anyway, little Queenie was an inspiration to me. My father entered her, this is going back many years, in the Federation Cup. So she had to fly from what was then Salisbury in Rhodesia to Durban in South Africa. And it was about a 4-day flight. She had to do about 1,000 miles.
Wow.
So this little bird was sent away, and 4 days later, she arrived.
How did she know where to go?
Well, that's what we all wondered. And that was the part about it. In my book, I refer to her as an athlete. Like, it was estimated that she would fly about 400 miles a day, and when the sun set, her little wings would be tired, her body weary, her muscles would be aching. Would she fly into the night, or would she roost in a tree? Miles from home, would she take a drink from a lake, a water hole, or from the bank of a river teeming with predators? What was certain was that Queenie had raced a marathon. She had been released in an environment which was totally unknown, and she had faced many obstacles and challenges. So she gave me the inspiration that no matter what life threw at you, you could pick yourself up and you could get back on the right track. You don't have to, be poor me. You can really do a lot for yourself. And as I say, for the next 60 or 70 years, Queenie always comes to mind if I'm faced with a challenge.
Nice. That's a good little analogy. And you've obviously had many experiences, but one of them that sounds ideal, you ended up living on a boat, on a yacht, cruising up the east coast of Australia. Is that as ideal as it sounds, or how did that come about?
Well, my husband and I were busy building a yacht. And when we retired, we were going to do a circumnavigation. That was going to be our dream. He took very ill, it was quite unexpected. So he was never able to complete that boat. But I felt that he still had to fulfill his dream. So against all the odds, we bought a yacht, a John Q Moonwind, and we didn't complete the other one. So we put ourselves on board and said, this is it.
Wow.
So for 5 years, we cruised up and down the coast. We had, well, of course, you know, we had the major complexities of raging and mountainous seas, anchors dragging when they shouldn't, and being grounded on Middle Island, near Great Keppel Island, one night in a raging storm. And I often reflected on the times that we lived on that boat, but it was always the good times that came to mind more so than the anxious times.
Nice.
Like, I loved the calm, the dolphins swimming as we cruised. The people we met were absolutely wonderful from all over the world and from all walks of life. It didn't matter who they were, we all had that camaraderie. So I think it was actually the best 5 years of our lives.
Wow, lovely.
You could just try and visualize what it would be like sitting on the deck on a very quiet evening in a remote little anchorage somewhere and gently swaying to and fro with a few fellow yachtsmen. Maybe somebody playing a guitar, everybody singing.
Sounds lovely.
It was beautiful. There were times, as I say, there were plenty, you know, you think, oh, what the hell are we doing out here? But on the whole, it was just an amazing lifestyle. And unfortunately for us, I think we left our run a little bit late because Aubrey was not a well man at that stage. And we had to be very careful where we went and, you know, planned sort of trips up and down the coast quite well, which also had to coincide with going to the doctor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it was a great lifestyle, absolutely wonderful.
Fantastic. And so writing about yourself, how do you decide which bits to keep in and which bits to leave out?
Very difficult because I had written a lot of things that were very probably, you know, the family wouldn't have been very happy to read and see. And there were some very controversial issues in the book. I tried to keep those to a minimum, but I felt I still had to put them in. And because it was a true story, I felt I had to tell the truth. And but at the same time, I had to tell the truth in a way that was not too derogatory to those involved.
Yeah,
And one of the parts that really was difficult to write, and I actually did an academic paper on it a few years ago. My one sister was incarcerated in a convent in the infamous Magdalen laundries, and she had to work as an 11-year-old child, you know, doing washing and ironing, and it was actually really bad. So that was one of the chapters that I wrote in my book, but I did keep it down to basically the minimum to save any really derogatory parts about it. My father, of course, was an alcoholic, and once he returned from World War II, things were not very good. And as the years went by, I have realized that in those days, there was no such thing as traumatic stress disorder. So if we had known, you know, things might have been a lot different if he'd been able to get help.
Yeah.
But it was the wife and all the kids that had to bear the brunt of the treatment, the violence, the abuse, the alcoholism. So, but having said that, although I dearly loved my father, it was very hard to sort of say these things about him in the book, because you think, oh, you know, what is he thinking about me now that he's in heaven?
Yeah.
But then there is a chapter 2 on reflection and soul searching, forgiveness and reconciliation. And I think I made it quite clear there that if I had known what I know now, things could have been a lot different.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. It explores so many different, like you must have gone through such a wave of emotion. Did you have to do much research or just from your remembered experience?
A lot of it was done just from memory. I think I was blessed with quite a good memory. But I had also done a lot of research into the family's history in writing family history books, you know, for about 20 years or so.
Wow.
So there was a lot of research done on different topics, but it all came into place when I wrote Flight to Freedom. And
did you connect with new family members or meet family members that you didn't realize you had, or?
Yeah. Yes, I did. It was quite strange, actually, and probably the timing was perfect, because 3 months before there was a big family reunion in South Africa, I got an invitation to attend.
Wow.
At that stage, writing the family book on the Osmers family. And so my 2 daughters and I got the plane and off we went to South Africa. And there were 119 people at the reunion, and it was staged on a farm for about 4 days. So all accommodation, it was just wonderful. And everybody could mill around and talk about everything. You know, we just got to know so many of our family that we never knew existed.
Oh, it's such an amazing experience. So you must have heard some interesting stories. What were some of the interesting ones that you didn't know before?
Well, I think it was just basically meeting up with, it was my grandmother's side, and was just basically meeting up with her family, because my grandmother was very special to me. So it was nice being able to say, well, okay, I remember her talking about Uncle But. I can remember her talking about, you know, so-and-so. But being able to actually meet their family was excellent.
Amazing, beautiful. And the writing process, was it, did you just sit down for days, or did you allocate times to do it? Because it sounds quite heavy, and a lot of the time you would need a break from it, I guess. So how did the process go?
The process was over a very long time. I think I've been writing the book for about 10 years.
Right.
And it had so many different twists and turns. It started in different places. So it was being totally revamped all the time. I think I did about 100 edits. And the name of the book, I mean, it changed right up until probably a month before I actually published it. I don't know how many names we had for it. So it had been quite good. I loved it.
Yeah, nice. And did you, was it just when you had a memory come to you that you would sit down and write about that story? Or was it when you went looking for something in the research? And You wrote about it then, or?
Well, I had started off, of course, like when I was born, and then I thought, no, that doesn't sound right. So the place I started off at was, my book has got a house in the background, and this is a home we lived in when I was in high school. So I actually started the book from there, because that was the house where we had very happy times, but we also had very sad times and bad times. It was a time when my father was probably at his worst, but the best part of all was, it was also a time when I met my husband. He was 19, I was 17, and he was just the most amazing person.
Nice.
So our lives, I actually started the book in that house because that's where our lives started.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No.
So, and then I sort of did the flashback, to my early years, his early years. He'd spent in an orphanage during World War II, and his mother had been killed in a car accident at the age of 2 years old, so he never really knew her, and nobody ever spoke about her, and he didn't even know her name.
Wow.
And that was when I started looking and searching. So the story sort of then went from there onwards. Both of our young years, our courtship, our marriage, our children, our migration to Australia, which was the best thing we could ever have done. And of course, his illness, cruising the coast. And then eventually it just went to the end.
No.
Our lives became complex.
Now, you've obviously been very successful in researching your family tree. Do you have any advice to anybody that might be thinking about doing that?
Well, at first it took me a couple of years to make a breakthrough. And when I did, and I started getting right into it, I found that my husband's side of the family, for instance, were very prominent in the foundation and forming of the early South Africa. So as the time went, I started thinking about all the seas that had been sailed, the wars that had been fought. It became very, very interesting. And I don't think I would ever not have done it now that I've done it.
Yeah,
because,
right.
There was just so much. You just never knew exactly how much these people had been through.
Yeah. And what about advice to people? I mean, lots of people, they say everybody has a book in them, but some people could sit down and write a fantasy, but writing like autobiographically something about yourself. Do you have any advice for people that are looking to write a story based on their real experiences?
Well, I know autobiographies are normally written by famous people, but I sat and I thought about it, and I thought, well, my life wasn't famous, but it was a life that could probably give hope and inspiration, and just sort of help somebody along their way.
Nice.
It was a life that was an ordinary life. It came from, abuse and poverty, but it was an ordinary life from there onwards. And we did it. We got to the end, and it became an amazing life. Nice. I always think of it as being the greatest love story ever told. Not that anybody else would think that.
That's beautiful, yeah.
It was me. It was my husband. It was my children, my great grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren.
So another book? What book's next?
Well, the next book, there were a lot of things once I had finished this one that I thought, oh, I could have written about that. And there were other things that sort of probably wouldn't have made a whole book, but I got the idea to then write a book of short stories.
Nice.
So it's called The Silent Night and Other Short Stories, which should be out there in a couple of months' time.
Only a couple of months this time.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of months.
Well, I think it's because being a short story book, the stories go a lot quicker and you don't have to work out all the plots and so, yeah, I'm looking forward to publishing that one.
Lovely. And what about you? What do you like to read yourself?
I like reading non-fiction. I like reading some fiction. I love Wilbur Smith. I love all the books written on animals and adventures. And I also like the Australian romance books that are coming out. You know, there are quite a few authors that are writing really nice Australian outback romances.
Yep.
So I find that those are, you know, very interesting to me.
Yeah. Now, can I get you to hold up a copy of your book and show everybody the cover and also tell people where they can get it?
Okay, that's the copy. That's the cover.
Just hold it up a little bit more.
Okay.
A little bit more. Little bit more. Yep, beautiful.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's the link to my book is through australianauthors.net.au/author/Rose/Russell Perry.
Okay, so I'll put that into the link at the end as well.
Okay, do you want me to send you that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Beautiful. And do you have any final messages for our viewers today? Any words of wisdom you can leave us with? It sounds like your story is so amazing. Is there any words of wisdom you could leave us with?
Well, I'll leave you with the word of wisdom. I've read so many posts on Facebook and people say, oh, I'm 20 or I'm 30 or I'm 40 and you think it's too, you know, I'm left it too late. And my advice would be, I published my book at 81 and, you know, there's no deadline. I mean, really, just do it.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much. And again, Rosalie's book, Flight to Freedom. Everybody get out there and check the link at the end of this and go and get yourself a copy. It's such an amazing story about Rosalie's life and shows resilience and yeah, fantastic read. So, and thank you so much for joining us today, Rosalie. We really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much again.
No, thank you, Andrew.
No worries. Have a good day.
Yes, you too. Thank you.